Well, if I tell you that this is Disability Month, Disability Awareness Month, and you're thinking, ooh, that sounds like kind of a dry topic, hold on just a second. Our insurance expert, Craig Gussin, is here this morning to tell you why more folks really need to pay attention to this disability insurance stuff and why it affects so many folks. It's really not top of mind with people, is it?
No, it isn't. People never think about it. But the thing I always say to people is, if you become disabled, how are you going to pay your bills? And they go, oh, it's not going to happen to me. But the largest minority in America is the 51 million disabled Americans. And when you start thinking about that, and that maybe 10 to 20% of those, maybe 30 tops, is going to have any kind of disability insurance, you're looking at probably right around 40 million people who are disabled but have no money coming in. And the big key is, if you have no money coming in, how are you going to pay your bills? And you and I have talked in the past about people, going bankrupt because of medical bills.
Right.
But the biggest concern is if you become disabled, and it can be an injury, it can be an illness, it can be whatever, and you're not working, you have no money coming in.
It doesn't have to be an injury that racks up huge medical bills. For example, a carpenter, if he breaks his arm, he can't swing a hammer. Well, that's not really a life-threatening injury, but he might be out of work for months.
Exactly. And most people think, oh, to be disabled, you have to be confined to a hospital bed, you got to be in a wheelchair. But, if you're a carpenter and you lose the use of your hand, you're going to be totally disabled from being able to do that. In today's world, almost everybody uses a computer. So if you can't use your hand, you're disabled. And one of the big concerns is, if you're disabled, how are you going to pay your bills? Because it's a snowball effect where you're not working, you have no money coming in, you can't make your rent, you can't make your car payment, you can't pay any bills, and then all of a sudden you go into debt higher and higher. And one of the biggest percentage of people going bankrupt is because of a disability.
And this doesn't have to be necessarily permanent disability for life. What's the average length of time that people are disabled, and about how many folks does that affect?
But 2.5 years is the average disability. Some longer, some shorter. But the effect after 3 months, a lot of people are living, paycheck to paycheck. And if you don't have any kind of paycheck protection, then what happens after 6 months of being disabled? All of a sudden it's like, oh wow, I have all these bills, I have no money coming in, how am I going to live? And people think, oh, it's only going to hit somebody who's 60. But when you start looking at statistics, it's 3 out of 10 people.
3 out of 10?
Yes.
So nearly 30% of the population is going to experience some kind of long-term disability. Now, is this insurance, is it available to everybody? I know it's, my wife's a dental hygienist, and in fact, she's very familiar with you through your work with their organization. So she has disability insurance. I'll bet you there's a whole lot of folks watching right now, they don't even know if that's provided through their employer.
A lot of times it is. Everybody has, they know it's under paycheck, they have SDI coming out of their paycheck. That's state disability. The state pays you anywhere from $50 a week to $110 a week if you're disabled.
A week, that's not going to pay your mortgage though.
Exactly.
Right.
And then you can get private disability insurance, either through your job that they provide for you, or you can buy yourself. One of the best commercials that ever come out to talk about this was the Aflac Duck. Because people go, well, what's that about? Well, it talks about giving you money when you can't work. And the concept is, to make sure you have money to live on. If you become disabled, most people need about 60 to 65% of their net income to continue paying their bills and living.
So that's if you're sitting at home, you're thinking, how much would I need? About 60 to 65% of your take-home pay is what you're going to need just to get by. And if your employer doesn't provide that, you go out to buy that on the market. Is it affordable? It
is, but it all depends on your occupation. You picked a carpenter. Carpenter is probably the highest risk person you can talk to, just purely because, or a plumber, they can become disabled so easily. Again, it depends on your market. If you're a dental hygienist, some companies love working with hygienists, others don't. But if you're a business owner, you sit behind a desk doing work, if you're a news anchor, you're not much of a risk. The big risk is if something major happens to you, it's a concern. But you hurt your leg and you were back to work within a week?
Right, yeah, I was back, well, actually the next day. Okay. After the surgery, it took me a couple days at home.
But if you were a surgeon, you probably couldn't go back to work next week, or any type of business where you were standing all day, because you couldn't put that much pressure on your leg.
Okay, so what do folks need to do right now? They're watching at home, and I think we have their attention now on Disability Awareness Month.
Exactly.
What do they need to do right now? They contact who?
They contact a broker. A lot of brokers don't do with disability. You want to deal with somebody who's very familiar with disability insurance, how it works, what the benefits are, and you find a plan that's going to meet your needs based on the benefits you need and what you can afford per month, because you can always design a plan to meet your financial obligations of what you can afford.
The actual bare minimum that you think you're going to need in order to pay your bills. Craig Gussin, as always, thanks. Good to see you.
My pleasure.
All right. See you next time around.